Hello everyone. Today I'm playing again with, let's see, where is my box? These wonderful, I've used Paul Rubens for years and years and years, but they just recently gifted me with this box. And of course, as you can tell, if you know me, I loved just the fact that it's called a floral palette. I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have that. So they sent that to me, and of course it's beautiful. I have tons of their paints I've been buying for years. And also, you guys, for a year now, I've been sharing the Meeden palette, which I think is incredible, and I think it's the perfect beginner's palette. And a lot of you have bought it and said you love it as well. The vibrancy, the sheerness, like everything. It's a great palette, and it's a no thinker. You don't have to mix these colors, because I hear a lot of the beginners say, I don't know how to mix colors. You don't have to hear it. Takes it out of it. Or if you're just a lazy painter like me, here you go. Anyway, Meeden is a sister company of Paul Rubens. So it's kind of interesting because I'm seeing a lot of the same type of colors, even though they named them a little bit different. Here's actually the colors. So this is their floral palette, which you can see, I mean, those are all flower colors, right? So of course I fell in love with it. And today I'm going to paint this little floral. And I'm pretty excited because I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I do not have a palette that has in it Opera Rose. And this one has it. It is a little bit granular. That doesn't bother me at all because I like that kind of organic feel in my flowers. So this is one palette I would carry with me traveling because it has all the colors in it. Has my olive green I love. It has these blues that I'm trying to get myself to use more. The pinks, the purples, the blues, all of them. And bonus, it has that color. Today I'm going to be using that color. I want to paint these really soft, almost pastel-y type of flowers with the pink. And you know what, actually what I might mix with that, let me find it here, is a little bit of white. This is Mission Gouache, titanium white, which might be too white. So hold on one second here. I don't have my regular white. I don't use white hardly ever, you guys. Okay, well, we're going to use this because that's what I have here. So it's a titanium white. It's very opaque because it's a gouache. I'd really like my regular white. Hold on one second. Let me see what I got here. Let me pull out my, here's my Meeden. These are the tubes that I actually fill my Meeden palette with. And here, that's what I thought. There's a white here. There's probably even a white in the container because I don't want the white. A gouache might overpower that pink. Let me see if there, yeah, see, there actually is a white, so I don't even need this. I refilled this with these tubes, by the way. So that's what I'm going to use because I want this really pale pink color for this painting. What I'm going to do first, and by the way, I'm using my brushes. I'm trying to get myself to use this big bad boy. This is a 16 round. It comes in my brush set. This is the Craftimo brushes, which you know I love. Love them. They're cruelty-free. They're beautiful. They're reasonable. They don't... they're snappy. So anyway, that's what I'm going to be mixing some colors here. Let me go ahead, and then I've got my wash and rinse. You know, my Meeden. If you're a follower, you know all this stuff. You can just fast forward a little bit. I'm trying to do timestamps, so those of you that don't need to know what supplies I use, I also list them below in my description, everything I'm using in this video. But I've got my wash, my rinse, very important. And actually, the color of pink I'm going to try and get is going to be close to that. Not maybe quite that light, but something similar. So let's just mix up here. Let's see. I don't want to use that. That has a lot of paints. I'm going to use this. And I'm using my Meeden 100% cotton paper. Love it. It's a block. It's got excellent texture. If you can't get those Artisto pads because you're like in the UK or wherever you're at, in Europe, maybe somewhere, you can get these Meeden pads. And they're roughly the same cost, but they're 100% cotton. As you know, I love the Artisto pads. They're fabulous. I have a lot of you, though, that have said, hey, I can't get those. Or I think it's London. They're crazy expensive, those Artisto pads, which is kind of interesting because they're really reasonable here. I think they're $22 for 3. I need some more myself right now, matter of fact. All right, so look at that. That is like opera pink. They are referring to it as pink tea or something like that in this floral palette. So I'm just going to put that here. Don't want to get it on my paper. And then, hold on, because I really feel like I want a little thing to mix it in. Let me see here. Let's use, we can use this here. Oh, hold on. You know what, I'm going to use this. Okay. So, there we go. You can see that a little bit better. I sprayed all these already. Okay, so look at that. Looks exactly like Opera Rose, right? So that color in itself, there you go. It's pretty light, very light. I don't even know if I could really get that darker. Notice how granulating it is too. Again, for me, doesn't bother me. And I'll just, fun fact, Opera Rose tends to not have as high a light fastness for those of you that are kind of pay attention to that. All right, now I'm going to add, so that's one color of that pink, which I'll probably use several. You just rinse my brush here and I'm going to grab a little bit of this white. There we go, kind of try and, this is one downfall of when you use a bigger brush. It's kind of hard to get them into those little pans, half pans. Okay, so look at that color. Isn't that pretty? That's kind of the color I want. It's this very pastel-y pink color. And this is a swatch, by the way, you guys. I'm not painting on my actual paper. So those are the two colors I'm kind of going for. All right. What I will do is, because I'm working wet and wet, I want to have both those colors ready. So let's just pick up and get that pink all ready to go. Full power here, so that's no white in there. I'm just scraping off part of my brush. I want to get quite a bit of that in there. There we go. Okay, and then I've got my pastel pink there. Okay, now we could, let me show you, because another way to achieve that light pink can also be just adding more water. So if you see there, you know, adding water gets a similar effect, but I wanted it to be a little bit opaque. So this is a little bit more transparent, but definitely two different ways to get that light pink is add some white paint, or you just add some water, which can be very lovely in itself. All right, I've got my colors there, and let's now, I'm going to start, I kind of just sketched. If you haven't watched my guidelines, you know, using guidelines to draw flowers, just kind of, I'll look for that and link it in the description below. But I'm mostly using brush strokes for this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with that very, very light, opaque type of color. And if I need to, I can always take this out and just see what I've got on my brush. That's what I want. There you go. I cut up little papers all the time. And I'm going to go into this, I'm going to put a little bud at the top. And I'm kind of working with the side of my brush, which I love to do. I really wanted to get used to using a bigger brush because I tend to paint kind of small. And interestingly enough, I remember one of my professors would not let me bring in a piece of paper under 9 by 12 because she would tell me, you need to paint bigger. You paint way too small. It's like, okay. What I'm going to do is I've got my 8 round here, and I'm going to go into, let's see, I think I want this dark brown, which I believe this is their version of the Van Dyke brown. There we go. And I'm just going to touch into that base. Ooh, I love dark browns with pastel-y pinks. And I'm just going to leave that just like that for right now. Wash, rinse my brush, set this on a towel or on my brush rest here, which could be, you know what, you guys can use chopstick holders, you can use silverware holders. Anyway, oh my gosh. Okay, are you guys seeing this? Look at that. This, you guys, I swear to you, is what I wake up thinking about. I don't know how else to say it. Like that, I never get used to that. It's always so cool to me. All right, enough of that. I'm going to go, but I just love that. I'm going to go in here and just start creating some petals with the side of my brush. So I'm holding my brush almost horizontal. So I could use the tip, but I'm also using the side of my brush. And I'm starting out very light here because I can always build layers. So I'm just going to start using lots of water, light layers, and just creating some petals here. Everything leads back to the center of my flower. I could have even right here, you know, wet all this and then went in there, which is kind of what I'm doing now because I just want to show you that's another approach. You can just kind of wetting a big circle area for my flower. And then I can go in and start kind of dabbing in where I want some of these pinky colors to be, just like that. So this is just another approach. I love damp and damp. That was damp. That was not real wet. And look how pretty that effect is. Now, keeping in mind, watercolors dry softer, lighter. So this is going to definitely lighten up, and I'm going to go in there and put some darker colors. I'm going to go ahead. I typically paint in 3s, so I'm going to go ahead and add one more flower here. So I'm just wetting an area. This flower I'm making I'm bringing all my petals to a center point I'm imagining right here. And now I'll pick up some of that paint, very light, start touching in. Just adding, I mean, look how pretty that is already. I almost feel like I want some darker color in the center, but not quite sure yet. So I'm going to add just the slightest touch of this blue because I really like it in the Meeden palette. I liken it to this blue you see right here, which is their light sky blue. And I really like that color. And together when this mixes, what it's going to do is kind of create this fun purple. So I like that. And honestly, I'm kind of doing this as I go here. Not really planned out, kind of how I seem to roll. Put a little bit of this in here. I want to get that brown in there as well, that Van Dyke brown. There we go. Wash, rinse my brush, set it down on my towel, and grab the tiny brush again. want to go into this while it's wet here, so like that. Just love how that spreads. So cool. What I might even do is get a little bit brighter pink, maybe even that Quin Magenta. Let's mix that. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty. The one thing I love about Paul Rubens is you don't need that much paint, and this can really go wild. Look at that. I mean, it just, whew, went. And I love that. I think that's really pretty. Okay. So I want to let this dry a little bit, and I'm going to go back in and darken this petal that's in front. I'm not sure if you can see it. I had a very light pencil line here. So this is in the back. That's like a petal in the back. And this one is in the front. So I want to darken that a tiny bit. So just going a little bit darker in value, meaning more paint, then water. So I've got that mixed up. Gonna go in, and this is probably a little wet, so let's see what happens when I go in there. I don't want to put my hand in that. Yeah, so it's still a little bit wet, and that's exactly what I wanted right there. So I wanted this petal to pop out. Then what I'm going to do is just pick up, lift with a thirsty brush some of that back petal so it stays in the background. And there you go. I love that. I could add some of this in here. So pretty. There's just something about the organicness of brown and the pinks. I don't know what it is for me. I just love it. It's like the pinks can be almost too pretty and too fluffy or something, and you need that grounding, that brown in there. So I'm going to get the tiniest bit of that and just touch in just a tiny bit. I don't want it too obvious. Look at that. Love that. There you go. All right. Now I'm going to go into here and just use a little bit darker shade, darker value, meaning a little bit more paint. And I'm going to go in and pull out in front some of these petals. While this is still wet, I can do that. So it's creating that beautiful depth. Let's just tap in a little tiny bit more. There we go. Rinse my brush, get a little bit more. You have to be a little careful with that opera pink because it can be quite alarming, quite, you know, it really pops. So I'm trying to keep it a tiny bit pastel-y. And I love working with the wet and wet because it's just this beautiful softness. And then I'm going to go in here and apply some there. See how I'm using the side of my brush? I love that. I love using the side of my brush. There we go. Then I'll let that dry just a bit. Let's go into here, which is probably already really drying. And I'm going to start pulling out just a tiny bit of these petals in here. Wash and rinse my brush, soften those lines. Pick up some more of that pink. And maybe I'll even go in here. Now, this is really dried, so I want to go in there. I washed my brush. It's now just damp. I've blotted it off, and I want to soften that edge. There we go. So I wanted it to kind of define that there's a petal here. So I almost like negative painted. And then maybe I could do the same with this here. Then I'll go in, wash, dry my brush, tap it off on a paper towel, and go in there and soften that edge. There we go. May get a little bit more of that pink. Oops, yeah, that's the right pink. So I'm getting a little darker value there. I'm building my layers. Yeah, I like that. I like how it's kind of popping out some certain things. So I could go in here, just tapping in. Again, I'm pulling out some of the petals. Like that. I'm really letting the watercolors kind of do the work for me there. I could even add it in here, but I really want to make sure that's dry, because otherwise it'll just kind of fade in to the next petal. There we go. Okay, and going in here again and just add a little bit more darkness, just to pull that petal out. I'm just using the tip of this brush. There we go. And then I let it kind of do its thing. I let it kind of go. I didn't want to get too dark. I'm getting a little bit darker than I kind of wanted to. I wanted to keep this picture, this painting, very pastel. Damp brush. There we go. But that's, you know what, that's okay. Okay. Let's go in here, and I'm going to just give this a little bit of color. Rinse my brush. There we go. So we're creating some interest here. Maybe in here I can do a little bit of interest here and there. I'm using the side of my brush. I'm just pulling out some petals here and there. There we go. And I'm wiggling my brush. Rinse it off. Just wiggling my brush. There we go. I don't want to do too much. I really like the softness and the subtleness, and that's what I was really trying to achieve here. And I tend to get, you know, I can't leave it alone type of thing. And I don't want to do that here. I do want to have some distinction between the different petals, but I don't want to have too much darkness. I don't want it to get too dark, just this subtle pulling out of petals. Let's go in there again. There we go. Wash, rinse. Go up against that with a barely damp brush. So that's some negative painting. I'll do a little bit here. I didn't even really end up using that white, you guys. And I'm kind of wiggling my brush, if you notice. See, sometimes I do this stuff without thinking. So I'm continuing to pull out some of these petals, just giving them all different values and things really kind of does it. Okay, I'm pretty happy with that. I might want to do just a tiny bit, Ooh, I'm kind of nervous. I don't want to do too much with this flower. I'm actually kind of liking it, so maybe do a little bit and more of here. Okay, let's go in now, and I'm going to, I could use this brush for what I'm going to do right now, but I really like this angle brush for what the stems I want to do. So I'm going to go in to the Van Dyke Brown, and I'm just going to do, because I want them to be really contrasting, and I'm going to start painting rather, some of these stems. Again, I love the contrast of the warm brown with the beautiful light, very light pink. I feel like it just kind of grounds everything. Maybe there's some more. Now, I haven't got the steadiest hand, you guys. There we go. And I'm letting the paint get lighter and lighter. So we've got this push-pull thing going on. Some of these stems look lighter, some look darker. There we go. But look how pretty that is. Isn't that pretty? I wanted something very fuzzy and light and flowy. And I think I'll put one more flower there. So let me grab, I'm actually going to use my 8 round. I put this intentionally in my set so that I could get used to using this bigger one and paint bigger. I'm hearing my old professor talking in my ear, you guys. And I'm going to use the side of my brush, but I want this to look like it's in the background. So I want it to be very light, almost like, oh, is that another flower in the background? That's what I want my viewer of my art to say. Oh my gosh, it looks like there's another one back there. Let me grab my tissue here. And let's see, where's my angle brush? Here it is. I'm going to put another little, I actually want to test this out because I want it to be very light value. Yeah, like that. So it kind of looks like it's in the background. Love this angle brush, you guys, because you can use it. Oop, look, I got a dot of paint. I dripped. No worries. I love having a brush that I can use a few different ways. That was always really important to me. So I don't have to necessarily keep changing my brush. I just want to give these little hints, like there's maybe something in the background. So there we go. If this is dry, I'm going to hit this really quick with my dryer because I want to do, watch this. I want to do some little stamens in there. So see how granular that is, that aqua rose? I love that. There we go. Okay. Thank you, handy dandy dryer. Okay, so I'm going to use my angle brush again. What do I do with it? Here it is. You guys, I even love my water. Look how pretty even my water is, right? Okay, I'm debating here if I should use my tiny 8 round to do these little lines or this. I think I'm going to do this. Let's grab some more of that Van Dyke Brown. And just the lightest pressure and only using the tip of my brush. And I'm almost going to do like a flick. And it's going to come out of the center here. you could almost use a smaller, like a detail brush. And I think I want it a little darker. I think I want a little bit more like a black. What's this color? I forget. That's like a really, really dark green. If I mix that, maybe that'll get really, really dark. I can't tell you how light a pressure I'm putting on here. And I have some of you say, oh my gosh, that's so hard to get that. So definitely use a pen if you want. There we go. I'm kind of liking that. And then I'm just going to do these little dots. And there we go. Yep. I like that. I think what I'll do in the background is I'm going to mix a tiny bit of the brown with some of that pink, and then really lighten that up. So it's a really, really light value. Need a little bit more brown in there. And I'll do that quite often with my stems, is I will put some of the pink or the color of the flower into the stems. I think that's kind of cool. And then let's just do, okay, it needs a little bit more brown because that was too contrasting. So let's add a tiny bit more brown to that. Sometimes that happens. Where's my brown? Here it is. But yet I want it very watery. Let's see what we have here now. Yeah, something like that. Maybe even a tiny bit more brown. A little bit more watery. There we go. Now I'm getting what I want. It just adds some interest. I love it when you look at a picture and it's like, ooh, do I see some glitter? Do I see something faint in the background? I love that. Now, what I could have done in the beginning of this too is do kind of a wash. So I might try and do that now. Let's grab, so here's where I just really start playing, you guys. I'm gonna pick up some of that pink, very, very light. And I wanna give a little bit of the illusion that there might be some flowers in the background. Now I gotta be careful here because I don't want to move around too much and mix all of that and reactivate that brown. So I'm being a little bit careful here and just adding in hints of that pink in the background. So it's like, oh, is that some flowers back there? But I'm softening all these edges. Isn't that pretty? Isn't that fun? Now, you don't have to do that. You can have just stopped right here. But I think that's kind of fun. Just playing with that in the background. And again, being careful not to activate by rubbing too much the paint here. And you want to make sure that whatever that background color is, it is different than what you've got there. So I'm just kind of darkening that up. Maybe we'll even darken it up a bit more. Now the paint's only gonna go where I wet it. So I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe add a tiny bit down here. So I'm trying to guide my eye a little bit. So maybe we need some here. See how that looks like a flower now in the background? And I think I'm about done. I don't want to do too much more to this because I really wanted this to be very faint and light and maybe just a few little darker areas. So I'm looking at it now to see where I want to guide my viewer's eye. And there we go. I think I'm done. I think I need to leave it just how it is because I can get in there and start getting a little crazy. Wet my brush. Push and pull that out. There we go. All right, guys, I hope you'll give this a try. Don't forget, my brushes will be released September 13th. Where's my big bad boy? But it's going to be a very small, limited release. So if you do want to get in on it, just look in my description. You can sign up just to be notified. They don't come out till the 13th of September, which kind of oddly is Friday the 13th. And I will list all my supplies and all that good stuff. Boy, you guys, if you like florals, this Paul Rubens is so fantastic. And by the way, this month, August 2024, they have a really cool contest going on, so you can submit your paintings to them and win all kinds of cool stuff. All right, everybody, I hope that was fun for you. I hope you picked some little tips and tricks up there. And I'm just so glad to have you all in my community, and I will see you soon.